On this episode of The Real Estate Show, I am talking with Ryan about mail-away closings, when you can use them, when it's not a good idea to use them, and the common pitfalls we see or mistakes that can slow down the recording. So if you are a real estate agent or you got a client wanting to do a mail-away and you need some tips and tricks, this episode is for you. Well, we're here on a Saturday.
Saturday morning.
We're in our not work clothes.
Yeah, shout out Will Thomas. Send me the LSU gear.
Yeah, with your matching Haller Brothers hat.
Yeah. Not sponsored by any of them.
No.
But if LSU wanted to sponsor this podcast, I mean, I guess technically if you want to go way back, LSU is
the reason
that this podcast exists.
Mm-hmm.
So LSU, this one's
Thank
for you.
Go Tigers. And I'm pretty excited because after this,
Yeah, you're going to be fit. You're
I'm
getting
going to
fit
work
again.
out for the first time in
I was going to say 18 months, but it's
been longer than that.
Yeah, probably.
18 plus 9.
Yeah, 2.
She's 20 months today. So 20, her daughter's 20 months old today. 20 months plus 9.
You worked out a little bit at the beginning, I feel like, and then you stopped very quickly. So maybe 2 years.
Yeah, we'll give it that. So that's
I'm
where
excited
going.
for you. You know, you're trying out Orange Theory Fitness. So, you know, there's one literally right down the road here.
Actually recommended to me by a real estate agent that had a closing yesterday.
I'm interested because if most of you guys know, I used to own a gym, predominantly CrossFit gym. We had other stuff there, but, you know, it's a different style of fitness.
Yeah, so I'm pumped. But on that note, let's talk about our topic today.
Yeah, mail away closings. Somehow, some way, this is the most searched for or most visited web page that we have. That's a blog post. That's not, you know, one of our attorneys at the homepage or whatever. But mail away closing seems to have the most traction because there's actually not that much information out there about it. So it's pretty common that we have mail away closings. I would say, 40% of them, there's one party at least that has some sort of mail away version. 30%.
I was going to say that's high, but actually looking at my calendar, 30%.
30 to 40, somewhere in that range. Yeah. So a third of the people that do a closing are doing some variation of mail away. So yeah, it's important, but there's not much information. So the thing we generally do is we make our podcast about or for real estate agents. This one's going to be kind of for real estate agents, and also this is good for you to share with your clients. So if you want to just click send on this podcast to clients that are potentially going to do a mail away closing, if they fit the criteria that we're talking about, then share away. So we'll try and be more interesting for your clients.
We'll do our best.
Whatever we can do. All right. So Tiff, first off, let's just do the easy one. Not sponsored by Clutch. Darren, I'm going to reach out though. We need a Clutch sponsorship. The people have spoken. I mean, it's not me. It's the people. The people have spoken. Tiff, where are we at right now?
Ryan, as you know, we are at the law firm.
Oh, and what is it that we do here?
You're being kind of weird. At Thomas & Weber, we close real estate transactions. Are you trying to do an ad read right now?
I would never do that. You know, just hear me out though. Like if somebody were just wondering like, well, why is Thomas & Weber maybe a good law firm to do real estate closing? What would you tell them?
Well, as the marketing professional for our firm, I think you know that I would say we are easy to do business with. We provide lots of options to communicate with us in a secure way.
Yeah.
We have some of the best paralegals in the state of North Carolina.
I mean, they're all right.
You're just saying that because they give you a hard time. Rightfully so. And considering you work with us every day, do we have enough time to go through everything?
I mean, I'd say that's good, but just hear me out. Curious. If somebody wanted to maybe close a house in North Carolina, submit their closing and possibly do that through our office, where would they send their, offer to purchase?
You're being so weird right now. You made up this email address. And it was a pretty good one, quite catchy.
Thank you.
Close at thomasandweber.com.
Ooh, that is good. I forgot about that one.
Sure you did.
So just, let's just throw it all out there in case they want to make a phone call and say, I want to close at the office and I like calling and talking to somebody. What number would they dial?
Well, for the sake of this not ad read, I will share that our phone number is 704-663-1600.
Oh, interesting. I really appreciate that, Tiff. Well, you guys heard it here. Back to the podcast. What actually is a mail away closing? What would you call the definition in your world a mail away closing?
Okay, so in North Carolina, I'm backing it up a little bit. It's an attorney closing state in which the documents are kind of notarized at the closing table while you're going through everything with the attorney. In a mail away closing, that means one party is not able to physically attend the closing appointment, and they are executing their documents in a different location to then be sent to our office, often by mail. So, originally, you put the documents in the mail, send them out, and then they send them back. Now with technology, we might be emailing the documents, but they still have to be printed, signed, sent back. For example, recently, if we had a seller mail away, we would overnight all of the seller documents to that seller. They would get a notary, go sign in front of the notary, do everything, put it back in the FedEx, send it back to us for closing.
So do you guys recommend notaries? Do they have to try and find one? Like, how does the notary, because people don't know.
Well, we can go either way. It depends on if there's any indication that we might be dealing with a vacant land scam, we must arrange the notary. We don't give a seller an option on that. But if there aren't any red flags for that, then a person could choose to arrange their own notary, or they could have us do it. If we do it, then we just use vetted services, and it costs what it costs. So if someone's trying to save money on a notary, they might ask to.
Now, do you have recommendations if they were to try and find a notary in their area? Like, where are some common places to maybe find that notary?
Like banks.
Banks.
Yeah.
They're
wherever
probably used
you
to
bank.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I know that's going to be a question.
Yes.
Well, where do I find one? I don't do this all the time. You probably buy maybe 2 or 3 houses in your lifetime is the average person.
Yeah. So if you're in the U.S., wherever you bank is most often you can get an appointment with a notary and sign there. If you're not in the U.S., U.S. Embassy or a military base.
Cool.
And those require appointments, and they're usually booked out 6 weeks. So you've got to plan ahead big time.
What are some things, what are some no-nos with notarizing? Because I think you've had a couple situations recently where the notary or the notarization was not valid.
Well, sometimes the notary doesn't completely fill out the block or even apply their stamp. So what we typically tell people is, hey, before you put anything in the mail back to us, scan us or take pictures of what you signed so we can make sure you're good. Otherwise, we're going to have to mail it right back to you to redo. So missing dates or stamps, someone may apply an electronic signature and then ask a notary to notarize it. We can't accept that. It's got to be ink signed, ink notarized.
And this is because it's a house purchase.
And because you're buying in North Carolina, and we have to follow North Carolina law.
Right.
So even if you may reside full-time in another state and, you might be allowed to do it there, you're not buying a house there, you're buying a house here. So we have to observe North Carolina laws. So
when you're thinking about, or someone's thinking about doing a mail away closing, what are some criteria as to, yes, this is allowed, or you'd be able to do it? Or I guess the better question is probably like, when can't you do a mail away closing?
One, if your lender doesn't allow it. If your lender will not allow you to do a mail away.
And a lot of it's dictated through the lender with this, right?
Yes. Or let's say there are two, and reasons your lender may not allow it. Let's say we were buying a house here in North Carolina, and then you have some job in California. You're not going to be able to be here. But we both have to sign the promissory note and the deed of trust on the same page at the same time. We're not going to be able to do a mail away because you can't be signing in California and me execute the document on a different page or on a different day than you.
So how would you get around that of a just in case? Not get around. You see what I'm saying? How would we solve that problem?
Well, if the lender will allow a power of attorney.
That's what I was getting at.
You can have a power of attorney. But again, that is subject to lender underwriter approval. Often it's okay, but we have seen lenders say you cannot use a power of attorney, and they've got their reasons for that. They're not just doing it to be difficult. They've got underwriting guidelines they have to meet. So if there's a situation where you can't be present, you can't both be present, but you could get a power of attorney for one to be present, that's an option as well. Other scenarios where mail away might not work is if there are specific time constraints for recording. Because if you have a loan, the loan package has to be executed on a certain day. Well, if you're doing a mail away, it means you're not here, which means it can't record that day.
Yeah,
it's going to have
like
to
a 2 or 3 day in best case scenario, because you have
1 day best case scenario.
Well, overnight. Well, I guess they could get it done when they get it, and overnight.
As long as it's not a Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's Monday through Thursday, the day you have to sign, and the overnight package arrives when it should, then we're not recording and funding until the next day. Which, sellers, if you said your closing date's the 22nd, well, and you got to push it you can't record till the 23rd, you might have some upset sellers about that. So that's something to consider, is that, yes, you might be signing your loan documents that day, but it won't record till the next day. Other things with mail-aways that we see that are problems and cause us to have to redo the package is, say we're sending you your documents for execution. You're supposed to sign them on the 22nd, but you got them on the 21st, so you just went on the 21st to sign them. Can't do that. You got to sign them on the date.
There is a specific date for a specific reason, and
can't do it early or late. It's got to be on the date of the documents.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, and it's frustrating for people because they're like, well, I've got the documents, I've got the time, I can knock this out, we can get this done a day early.
I would be one that would do that. I'd be
absolutely
like, oh yeah, like I've got it, I want to get this done.
Yeah, and you're trying to be proactive.
I'm trying to be, ahead of the game. You'd be like, that's bad.
Well, and so to try to curb that, we will try to make it so that you don't receive the documents until that day. We'll do a FedEx for delivery at 8 a.m. so that you have the whole day to execute, and then you can get it back in. We'd prefer to get it to people ahead of time, but they don't follow instructions and they sign on the wrong day, and we have to completely redo the loan package.
A lot of trust in the postal service.
In a lot of trust in FedEx and UPS. Yeah. we don't go on the postal service.
No trust in the postal service. A lot of trust in the other.
It's just we need it back overnight. Yeah. So we got to go with the overnight delivery services. So those are really kind of like the big things that can lead you astray in a mail away.
Now, locally people do mail aways as well. And it's more for, I think, convenience, correct? Like if I'm selling a property, I'm like, I don't care to be there. I can sign early. Like I don't have to do the closing on the specific day. You'll have sellers do a mail away closing, correct? Maybe they've already moved. They've sold their house. Yep. They've already moved to, let's say,
they live an hour away, or a couple hours.
They've moved from Lake Norman to the beach, and they're like, I don't need to drive back. I feel good about everything. It's an easy sale in our eyes, so we'll sign it here at the beach and then send the documents back.
Yeah, that happens a lot. And in my view, a seller mail away is easier than a buyer mail away because sellers can execute documents ahead of the date. Buyers getting a loan cannot. So, if you've got a seller and we've got a 3-week lead time on a closing, we can get the closing documents out to the seller. They can get them back. We usually have them in our office in plenty of time before the actual closing date. But with a buyer mail away, it's much more difficult just due to the loan package. Now, if they're paying cash, easy peasy. You can be a mail away. That's like one of the only scenarios where it's like, yeah, that's not bad. If you feel good about that transaction, you've done this plenty of times, you don't even have to come to our office. So, seller mail away is easier than a loan package mail away.
Now, do you see I hear a lot of benefits, to be honest, like, hey, I can kind of do it on my own time. I don't have to be at the office at a specific time. What are some of the negatives of doing a mail away closing?
Well, one thing that I think is nice about being in person with the attorney is the conversation, and I'm not talking about like, how's the weather? I'm talking about like, okay, well, tell me more about the escrow account. Talk to me more about the deed of trust and what can the lender do if I don't pay? You can still do all of that with a mail away. It's just people are less likely to pick up the phone for little questions compared to when we're sitting right here and they see a word they don't understand. They just ask rather than, by phone. They're like, well, I'm not going to call the office just to find out what this word means. I'll Google it. And if maybe if we've got more than one question, we'll call.
So maybe mail away closings are better for people that are more experienced and have done many transactions and aren't going to ask any questions about like legal phrases or words. So probably not as good for a first or second home buyer where, they've only done it once or twice and didn't really study it the first or second time. And it's just kind of like, I was buying a house and signed the papers. I don't know what any of this is. I just knew I wanted to buy a house.
And one thing I want to mention, since we mostly talk to agents on this, is a mail away. It's intended for convenience for people that can't be local. But when it comes to convenience, it's way more convenient to just have all the documents at our office and everyone sign. It's more convenient for your clients because they're not having to have the stress of finding the notary, making sure everything's signed correctly on their own. Because if they miss their middle initial or don't spell, if they don't include their middle name,
back and forth.
Could be a ton of back and forth. And when we're here supervising the signing, we can make sure all of that's done and that there's not having to re-execute documents. We're not worried about any delays for an overnight delivery service. We're not having a New York notary call you and tell you that they refuse to notarize it because the Register of Deeds is going to stamp the document after.
This is a real thing, people.
This happened last week.
Listen to this. It'll be last week.
The overzealous, newly minted New York notary public told me she could not notarize the warranty deed because it would be altered after it was signed.
And the alteration was?
The Register of Deeds stamping the book and page once it was recorded.
Which is required to record a deed.
And you cannot record a deed that hasn't been notarized. So we were going around in circles.
You're like, listen here, lady.
I really was like as patient and as nice as I could possibly be because she's new at this. She doesn't want to get in trouble. She doesn't want to break any laws. Completely respect that.
Awesome. I get it. I'm a lawyer. I know the laws. There's one thing I know, and it's the laws.
We did, and I didn't even ask to speak to the manager. She said,
"Ooh, you could have Karen'd her,"
but I didn't. And she said,
"That would have been."
I said, "Do you see how we're kind of at an impasse here because it's got to be notarized to be recorded, and they're not going to record it before you notarize it?" And she said, I see. I said, so we're going around in circles here. And she said, maybe I can grab my manager. I said, that would be so appreciated.
So she Karen'd herself. She said, you need to speak to my manager.
I said, that would be so appreciated. We did get it worked out. Everything worked out fine. It just put our seller through some unnecessary strife. Because she, the seller's like, I know that this shouldn't be an issue, but the notary I'm speaking with is making it an issue. So it, and this was one, it couldn't be helped. This person could not attend in person.
Right.
So, it is what it is, but those are the kinds of things that happen on a mail away that you don't see when you're signing in person.
So, kind of what I'm hearing with mail away closings, the big thing is to make sure if you can attend in person because it's going to be smoother and easier. You can ask questions. If there is
it minimizes lag to recording. All kinds of positives.
The reason to do a mail away closing is if you physically cannot be here. It's not, I don't feel like it. I mean, yes, people do that, but in the best case scenario, it's because
like if it's overly burdensome to get here.
Yes. Lawyer words. Good. Yeah. Nice job. That's why you get paid the big bucks, and I just get paid in barter bucks. I get paid in Weber bucks, and that allows me to be able to go like golfing. And
you haven't been golfing in years.
I know I haven't got enough Weber bucks to be able to pay for it yet. So that's where we're at in this world. I do think that brings up a good point, though, of closings in other states or other states in general. And we're going to do a big series on that. This is a 2024 podcast series that we're going to do of you're moving from X state. Here's the differences in real estate law.
And who recommended that? Was that Amanda Crosby?
It was an agent. I think it was Amanda.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. We're going to do that.
So I think it's a really good idea. And, you guys have kind of your top 10 states that people are moving from to North Carolina. And so we're going to dive deep into you're going to dive deep into what those laws are. And I'm going to sit here and be educated just like everybody else. Because the more you know about what their experience is and what they don't see as common in North Carolina, it's going to help.
Like the due diligence fee.
Yeah, it's going to help agents obviously say, hey, you're moving from this state. This is how it worked there. And it's because you heard Tiff do all of her research on it. So I think that's going to be super, super helpful for, finding specific buyers or talking to specific buyers from different states.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm excited about that just because, again, we do have our top 5, and then the other 5 kind of fluctuate. But we have our top states that people move from, and they're repeatedly surprised by the same things.
Yeah.
I also think this was a super helpful episode. It was Ryan's idea. We haven't done an episode on this in a while.
It's not my idea. I only just used the data that other people were searching for. I didn't hey, I think we should do. I'm just saying, hey, it's searched for a lot. We should probably talk about it.
And then also, I told you the story about the New York notary this week, and you were like, yeah.
So it sparked my interest.
Yeah.
This will be Thanksgiving week.
Oh, yeah.
Thanksgiving stuff, Tiff?
Yeah.
I mean, we got 2 or 3 minutes we can say.
Yeah, we got time.
Thanksgiving. What do you want to say about Thanksgiving? I don't have here.
I want to say do you remember when we did the team I'm thankful for a couple years ago? Do you remember what Tana said?
No.
I'm thankful for socks. So that's what I think of whenever.
I do want to shoot another one of those, and I did not let them know. And
They'll
I'm
be fine.
going to plan on it on Monday. They'll be mad.
No, we'll send out a note.
Just throwing this out there for those of you that have done Thanksgiving throughout the years. Our best Thanksgiving meals we've ever done was ones we did not cook. We went and got it catered through, one of these catering company that does Thanksgiving meals. We've used a couple of them, and every single time it's amazing. So if you're one that's like, man, the stress of cooking, and we still made a couple things that we liked, but being able to not have to think about the turkey, and not have to think about the core sides.
Now this year we're cooking everything, but the past
we're broke. This real estate market, I ain't got no money to be able to get my good pumpkin pie. So thanks a lot. Real estate no, it's not the lenders, it's the
Fed.
The Fed. Thanks a lot, Fed, for not letting me get my pumpkin pie. So now
favorite Thanksgiving side?
Oh man, I love a sweet potato. So
anything? Sweet potato, anything?
I mean, I like a sweet potato casserole, but
a savory or sweet?
I love everything sweet, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Just a sweet potato casserole, I'm probably going to be pretty happy. Sweet potato, mashed sweet potatoes, like that's my jam. And I put this on our story. We put this as a question on our Instagram story. Honestly, one of my favorite things is just being able to eat real butter. Putting it on bread, putting it on other stuff. I love some butter.
I can attest to this. Anything. Like, you'll just be ordering, like, sides of toast with everything just so you can put butter on it and shove butter in your mouth.
I love, and it's
like,
got to be.
If it was acceptable for you to put it on a spoon, I think you would.
Yeah, like pure real butter. That one.
All right, got to get some Kerrygold.
Yeah, tickles my taste buds.
You're not going to ask my favorite side?
I think everyone knows.
It's not Sour Patch Watermelon.
It's macaroni and cheese.
Actually, it's stovetop stuffing.
Oh, I forgot about stuffing. Well, close second, macaroni and cheese. But yeah, Tiff, you will get the box of stovetop and eat it just as a dinner.
Yes, I love it. It's so good.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be that good. For the price and the taste, it should not be that good.
Yeah. No, I mean, you love that. And you don't like the real stuffing. If someone makes stuffing.
I'll eat it.
Yeah, but
like,
it's not your jam.
I mean, like, I'm not going to be like, oh, I wish it was stovetop. Like, it's great. But
you're like, this would have been better if it was stovetop.
I don't know.
They should have got the box. I bet they spent so much time. They could have just got a box and it would have been so much better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Well, guys, we will not hold you up anymore on this Saturday, which when I say guys, I'm saying Tiff, you can go get a workout in. I'm going to go ahead and get this podcast edited because it's going to be posted in 2 days. So go Saturday work.
Go Saturday work.